A majority of the board is present, therefore a quorum is present, and the meeting is qualified to consider the agenda items. Would you please stand at attention and remain standing for the presentation of colors and the Pledge of Allegiance by the Nathan Hale High School JROTC Color Guard.
Color Guard, post.
Forward, march. March 5, march. Color Guard, post. Left, place. Precinct, colors.
Would you please join in the pledge? Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carry, colors. Post. Post. Colors. Precinct. March. Order. March. White, place, forward, march.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you so much. Ms. Fate, would you like to introduce tonight's cadets?
I'm always very honored to be able to introduce these highly acclaimed cadets that we have with us tonight, and we're also very pleased to have Dr. Sheila Riley with us, the principal. They're under the direction of Major McGuffey and Master Sergeant Gregg, both extremely well-talented, and students look upon them as very good father figures. But let me introduce the cadets who are here tonight. The pledge leader is the battalion commander, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Wood. The color guards were Cadet Major Laura Taylor, Cadet Sergeant Savannah Asher, Cadet Staff Sergeant Gabriel Awe, Cadet Lieutenant Zachary Cahey, and the greeters were Cadet Lieutenant Marquez Farmer and Cadet Sergeant Tyler Whitted. Thank you so very, very much. You did a fine job again, as usual. Yes.
I appreciate the reference to being a father. You can make it grandfather. Students of former students. And I'm a student of leadership, and let me just say this in all sincerity. Having been here 23 years, we represent a program that serves under the finest leadership we've had since I've been there, Dr. Sheila Riley.
Thank you again.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to remind those wishing to address the board to sign up with the clerk. As a reminder, there is a 5-minute limit Before I consider a motion to adopt the agenda, Dr. Gist, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
Yes, Madam President, we do have one change to tonight's agenda. That is the addition of a requisition number to action item F3. This is regarding learning facilitators providing coaching support to teachers, being offered quality experiences supporting teachers, and the Tulsa Model Assist. And the requisition number is 118034455.
I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda with the noted change.
So moved.
Second.
I'll call for the vote. Ms. Shelton?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It always feels strange not to start out welcoming everyone, but we just get right to business and then we welcome you. So welcome everyone and thank you for being here. I think Dr. Gist has a few recognitions.
Thank you, Madam President. I just really quickly, the major addressed Principal Riley, but I just wanted to say congratulations, Dr. Riley. You all had a big weekend, I understand, and pretty exciting there to break through a big moment, which I think is metaphorically means a lot for what's happening with all of the Rangers. So congratulations to all of you at Hale High School. And also, of course, welcome. We have a room full of really important team members, from instructional leadership directors to folks from our information technology office, our analytics office, our social emotional learning office, and our talent management, and just many others. So we're just very grateful to see such awesome team members all around the room.
Last week I learned that Vice President Keller's husband is one of the people who actually watches us on the, so hi Jeremy. That brings us to item D. We need to approve the minutes from September 5th, 2017, the regular meeting, and the August 15th, 2017 special meeting of the board. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
I'll call for the vote. Ms. Fate?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye. And that brings us to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to
So moved.
approve the consent agenda?
Second.
I'll call for the vote, or any discussion, excuse me, on the consent agenda. I'll call for the vote. Ms. Shelton?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have 3 items to consider on the action agenda this evening. F1 is a recommendation to approve and ratify the negotiations agreement and approve the execution of the agreement between the district and the AFT, American Federation of Teachers, 6049, Oklahoma, for the 2017-2018 school year. And this comes out of the bargaining with AFT for the school year that took place in January 2017 in order to accommodate the significant uncertainty in our state education funding. And now the agreements have been reached. F2. Well, actually, we need a motion on
Move
F1. I
approval.
apologize.
Second.
Any discussion on F1 at all? Okay. Call for the vote. Ms. Fate?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye. Moving on to F2, which is a recommendation to approve salary increases for the 2017-2018 school year for non-cabinet level employees and non-certified employees not covered by collective bargaining units, to include career increments and other adjustments. This is a 1.5 salary increase, and it will be applied to the employee's base salary only. Non-cabinet level and non-certified salary ranges not covered by collective bargaining units will be adjusted 1.5%.
Move approval. Second.
I'll call for the vote. Ms. Fate?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye. And the final action item is item F3, to pay the learning facilitators serving as independent contractors to provide coaching support to teachers being offered Quality Experience Supporting Teachers, or QUEST, and Tulsa Model Assist, TMA, for the 2017-2018 school year. This is not to exceed $120,000. Do I have a motion on F3?
Move approval.
Second.
Questions around F3? Ms. Shelton?
Thank you. Yes, it seems like a very important role. I was curious as to why we were hiring independent contractors rather than creating a district position for that role.
Ms. Shelton, we hire or use independent contractors to provide support for teachers who are, need additional support, either because they've requested it or because of we've seen opportunities in practice to help support them as they are working in their classroom. It would be ideal to have, more supports, and we've talked a lot about that. But given the construct of how these cases come about, it makes gives us a lot more flexibility and opportunity to provide individualized support to each of the teachers based on the need. So we can't ever dictate the number of cases or how often or frequent they come about. And so this gives us a little bit more flexibility. We're able to charge based on the services that are used, and so it allows us to be more thoughtful and good stewards of the dollars. And so generally we have 5 facilitators that we use to support over the course of the year. Our goal this year is to ramp that up, knowing that we do see opportunities to provide additional supports over the upcoming year, given just our novice teacher pool for this year.
Thank you. Yes.
Any further questions? I'll call for the vote. Ms. Shelton?
Aye.
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 Aye. Move on to our information agenda, and Dr. Gist will present this agenda.
Thank you, Madam President. Just as a reminder, information items are items that we bring to the board for consideration and for discussion, and any action that will be taken on these items would happen at a future meeting as either a consent agenda item or an action item. We'll begin with items G1 through G4, and these will be presented by our Chief of Schools, Dr. Eric Green. Dr. Green.
Good evening, Dr. Gist, Madam Chair, members of the board. Item G1 is a routine item that renews an agreement with various vendors for our participation in the Veterans Day Parade, the Christmas Day Parade, and the Martin Luther King Parade. The cost is not to exceed $200 for the Tulsa Christmas Parade, and there's no cost for the Veterans Day or the Martin Luther King Jr. Parades. The item G2 enters into an agreement between or with the Board of Regents of the University of Oklahoma School of Community Medicine on behalf of the Family Medicine Residency Programs. It's to provide education and supervision of residents and fellows through the Strong Tomorrows program that's running at Central High School, East Central, and Hale High Schools. There's no cost to the district. Item G3 renews or enters into a contract as applicable with the Choices for Life and Life Strategies International Community Agencies to provide school-based comprehensive mental health and social services for Medicaid-eligible students during the 2017-2018 school year. Those agencies may provide service to schools only with written permission from the school principal. And there's no cost to the district. Yes, sir.
Mr. Percival.
Dr. Gist, do we have a protocol for approving the organizations that can come into the schools and delivering these services? Because it seems like we have added, and every once in a while we add to the list, and we got a rather lengthy list of providers.
Well, we certainly try to get as many partners as we can, but quality matters. And so I'll have Dr. Green say more about the way in which we review and ensure that we are maintaining quality services to children.
You'll recall, thank you for the question, Board Member Percival. You'll recall that a few meetings back, we presented a list of, pretty substantial list of agencies and providers that we had already vetted and wanted the board to be aware of and approve agreements for engaging with them. These two were not there. They had not circled back with us with the required information to make it onto that original list, but as we continue to look for, as Dr. Gist was stating, continue to look for service providers to make sure that we have all of the resources necessary to meet the students' and families' needs, we obviously wanted to include them on our vetted list as well. I'll ask Dr. Ebony Johnson to come and share anything more on the vetting process.
Dr. Gist, President Schreiber, Board Member Percival, what we do when agencies actually demonstrate interest, they submit an application process to our office, and then we have someone there who actually goes through a set level of just questions, understanding overall programmatic offerings for the school prior to us actually giving permission for those schools to be approved in those particular schools. So we're very matter of fact about ensuring that they are actually going in to actually provide quality support to the schools, and we need to know ahead of time what that quality support looks like. So we do actually bring those individuals in, those agencies meet with a couple of individuals in my department, and then we make a collective decision as to whether or not they can move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Percival.
And the last item, G4, amends item E15, which was approved on the June 19, 2017 board agenda to increase the total amount for the agreement with the Tulsa County Parks to provide access to O'Brien and Chandler Parks for athletic events during the 2017-2018 school year. And the cost is not to exceed $300. It's an increase of $200 on the original item.
Dr. Decker?
Thank you, President Schreiber. Dr. Green, can we go back to G2? And it's my understanding that Strong Tomorrows serves pregnant teens and teen parents. So I just wanted to see if that is indeed the case, and if we have an idea of how many such students we'll have this school year.
Yes, it does. Strong Tomorrows does serve pregnant and parenting students, and I'm not sure of the scope. Dr. Johnson, do we have numbers? We don't have total numbers at this point.
I will say that we actually have a staff report planned for the next board meeting to give a full, you were going to say, Dr. Green, sorry, to give a full review of what we're doing in this area, and so we'll be able to give all the details at that time.
Right.
Great, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Green, and board members for your questions and comments. We'll move on to items G5 through G7. These will be presented by our Chief Learning and Talent Officer, Devin Fletcher. Mr. Fletcher.
Madam President, Dr. Gist, members of the board. Item G5 renews a contract with Amplify Education Incorporated out of Brooklyn, New York. Amplify, as you recall, is the organization that provides professional learning supports for the launch of the curriculum that we adopted in the prior year, Core Knowledge, Language Arts, which is K through 5, and Amplify, which supports our 6th grade through 8th grade for English language arts. We are continuing to provide our teachers support and development, and they also will help support the implementation of 6th grade Amplify, which last year we did for 7th and 8th grade. And so the total is not to exceed $700,000. This is a portion of donor dollars, philanthropic investment, and our title dollars. I'll pause for any questions there.
Dr. Decker.
Great. Mr. Fletcher, can you give me an idea of how much of the $700,000 is kind of one-time versus annual?
Yes. So the organization partners with us. So Amplify has a philanthropic arm, and they support us in implementing the professional learning. What we would like is that we, given the number of new teachers that we see annually, we know that we can anticipate, with the majority of those being in the elementary range, the need for us to invest pretty significantly. I would say that on average, we would expect for new teachers, there's about and I'm looking at Danielle, but about a $250,000 mark there, just in terms of the amount of time and resources and coaching necessary for that. Our ultimate goal is long-term to ensure that we've built enough institutional knowledge and understanding to sustain the work ongoing. Part of this is because we are implementing a completely new grade with personalized online resources, and so there's a larger investment to ensure successful implementation there.
Very helpful, thanks.
Item G6 enters into a new agreement with the Fender Music Foundation out of Agoura Hills, California. The instruments in this partnership will benefit Booker T. Washington Central Junior High, McLean Junior High, and other secondary sites for band and orchestra programs according to student needs and requests. There's no cost to the district for that. And then item G7 enters into agreement with the Tulsa County Public Facilities Authority to have 10 students from Hell High School, their culinary arts program, attend and lead demonstrations at the Tulsa State Fair. And this is the second year that they've been asked to come and compete, and there's no cost to the district.
I'm just going to jump in here, make a quick statement. G6, I believe I'm reading that a student led a fundraiser on to help support G6, and I really just want to highlight that. I do know who this student is, and what a wonderful gift to her school and also the other schools.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Bright? Please take the podium. Thank you. I apologize. Without Cindy here, we get a little off. She keeps us in line, so our apologies, but please.
Dr. Guest, board members. Just wanted to ask a question about G5. That's a significant amount of money. I don't care how you slice and dice it in this particular time in terms of shrinking funds. What I have noticed is that these consultants, millions of dollars, if you look at the last maybe 3-6 months, a lot of them have been contracted to come in our district. But what I haven't seen is an accounting of how they have impacted teaching and learning in this district. When they interceded, I haven't seen databases, I haven't seen analysis, I haven't seen benchmarking, I've seen no key metrics from these consultants that have been either accomplished. We're talking about a lot of money here coming to these gentlemen and women that come into this district. I have yet to see a report out on how they have impacted our district. We must know how much money is being spent and are we getting our desired results. You have the fiduciary responsibility to us to account for that money. We also are concerned about our children. Are they really being helped? And no matter that it was no cost to the district, but did they get the results that we needed or wanted or desired? What were the desired outcomes? What were the expectations that the district put out there for them? We must account for this money. When you look at some of the data, just look at the data over the years that this kind of money has been spent. We have never received sustainable results, even with the Tulsa model, which came out in the 90s, early 2000s. We must have an accounting of this money. We need to know that we're getting bang for the buck and that our children are being educated and that we're moving them to become productive citizens, career ready, college ready. But we need to know that $700,000 is going to get us there. And you can go back and look at all the other board agendas. Just pluck out that you see about consultants. Ask this question, are we getting bang for the buck? And they're focused in on just small groups of schools, and I'm not sure what the impact is to the whole district. If we took all of that money and took a group of teachers and principals and trained them to be subject matter experts, we could do this in our own district. But we must see that these particular consultants, et cetera, are giving us what we need, that we're getting the end in mind that we want for our children. We need to know when they interceded and if they're doing their job. That's all. Without it, I'm afraid we're wasting a lot of money. It should be something that the district is doing already, so it shouldn't be a short walk. I don't know if there's an annual report that's generated, but the public should know. The public should know and should know where to get the full document. That's our money. Taxpayer money, yeah, that's right. How is it being spent in this day and age is particularly crucial. When we have a legislative body that's gone to sleep intentionally. But we need to account for that money. Please take that under advisement. Let's know where that money is being spent and are we getting our desired results. As a matter of fact, what are the determinants to even hire them? I think Mrs. Evans, not Mrs. Evans, Johnson, I'm sorry, that she had said how they select certain groups. But we need to know what are the metrics, what are they trying to go toward, the end results, the outcomes, and the measurements they're using to be successful. If not, we need to call that contract back in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bright. Again, our apologies. Did you have separate remarks on E4 and E8?
E8 national equity, and it's $120,000. E4 was $177,630. Again, are we getting what we are paying for? That's the question.
Thank you.
Items G8 and G9 will be presented by our Executive Director of Bond Projects, Mr. Chris Hudgens. Mr. Hudgens.
Thank you, Dr. Gist, President Schreiber, and board members. Item G8 is an item to enter into contract with CJC Architects to provide architectural services for the library addition at Lanier and Robertson Elementary. These projects are both part of the 2015 bond issue. Their schedule is there's a 9-month schedule for design, We would start construction in August of 2018 and have construction completed in July of 2019. And item G9 is to approve a change order number 2 with American Air Conditioning for at Hale Junior High. The amount of the change order is $25,000. Additional paving is required to improve the bus drop-off. Are there any questions on those 2 items?
Thank you, Mr. Hudgens. Items G10 and G11 will be presented by our Chief Information and Operations Officer, Mr. Blaine Young. Mr. Young.
Thank you, Dr. Guest, and good evening, Madam President, members of the board. Item G10 is a recommendation to enter into an agreement with Presidio Network Solutions to purchase professional services to install a new version of the network management software SolarWinds used by the district to manage the district's network infrastructure. This new version provides for improved management capability of network switches as well as servers and end-user devices that are deployed across the school. This is ever increasingly important as we deploy more technology in the district and continue to depend on our lean staff to manage all of that infrastructure. Item G11 is for the recommendation to purchase data center switches and professional services from Sigma Solutions. This purchase will allow the existing end-of-life switches to be replaced. These particular network switches are one of the most important and critical components of the district's data center, since access to all district computing resources depends on these switches. This is part of the 2015 bond, as is item G10. Item G10 is not to exceed $60,000. Item G11 is not to exceed $700,000. Be glad to answer any questions you may have.
And that concludes our presentation of information items tonight, Madam President. We're certainly prepared to respond to any questions or comments that board members might have that have not already been addressed.
Thank you, Dr. Gist. We'll move on then to item H, staff reports. Are there any staff reports this evening?
We do have a staff report this evening. This is a report that we wanted to bring before you regarding our work to make sure that more of our students are staying in school and successfully completing their high school education so that they can be better prepared for college and careers. And we have Mr. Stephen Fedor and members of his team are here to provide this presentation. And I'll actually just say again, congratulations to you on the newest member of Team Tulsa, baby Hazel, who is 2 weeks old now?
Just about, yes.
2 weeks old. So we're glad to have you here and appreciate how refreshed you look and ready to share with us. So thank you for that. I'm sure that took a special effort today.
Well, thank you, and always glad to be here to present the great work that our team is doing. So Dr. Guest, members of the board, President Schreiber, wanting to talk today about early warning indicators, as they're often referred to, and really using data to identify students who are at risk of dropping out. I'll try to keep it at a relatively high level, and board members, you likely have in front of you a more detailed report that you can dive into. To set the stage just a little bit, as you know, we have about 40,000 students across 80 schools, 7,000 employees just about, with around 3,000 of those as teachers, all aiming towards one bold journey, and as a result of that bold journey, we seek to graduate students college, career, and life ready. So looking at our mission, it very much is that. It's that Tulsa Public Schools is the destination for extraordinary educators who work with our community and families to ignite the joy of learning and prepare every student for the greatest success in college, career, and life. Knowing that, the data team has sought to use data and analytics to better understand how we can reach that goal stated within our mission statement of every student having the greatest success in college, career, and life. So I'll be talking a lot about dropout rates, but wanting to just get a little bit of clarification up front around dropouts versus graduation rates, which it seems that it should be graduation rates should be one thing. Dropout should kind of be the inverse of it, where 1 minus the graduation rate is the dropout rate, which isn't the case. So it gets a little bit tricky. We won't go into too much detail on that. But to start off, let's just look at the graduation rate. As we know, graduation rates are improving. Since 2014, we've seen about a 5 percentage point increase year over year. So 2015 went to 67.5% just about, then to 72.5% in the 2016 school year. We don't currently have the data for last school year, but as soon as we get that, we will definitely bring it to you. And we're very hopeful in anticipating an increase. We don't know if we'll continue with that 5 percentage point gain, but we would obviously love to. But we do see some good signs that we'll see an increase from the 2017 school year. But what will it take to continue seeing these improved graduation rates? You heard last board meeting from Robert, Stacy, or Mr. Shortnick, Ms. Vinson, along with Taylor Hill Taylor and a few others. I was actually taking care of a 2-day-old at that time, so I wasn't here. However, sure, it was a great presentation, but they talked a lot about the Keep Our Kids in School, or now, as we're calling it, GREAT, bringing students back into school who haven't shown back up during their high school years. That is certainly one way that we're going to continue seeing this increase. There are a lot of little things that require a big effort that we do. And so the data team is focused on a data-related effort to see this improved outcome over time. So graduation rates are the percent of students completing all credit requirements within 4 years of starting high school. It is 4 years in that case. So what we know is that many of our students finish their 4th year without enough credits to continue to earn their diploma after that 4th year. They are not included in the cohort graduation rate. Dropout rates are the percent of students who leave Tulsa Public Schools before graduating and do not enroll in another degree issuing institution. This can be they truly do not enroll in a degree issuing institution, or that we simply don't get records of them enrolling, in which case they are considered a dropout from Tulsa Public Schools. Students can drop out. It's after 10 days you are considered a dropout of not attending school, but you can come back. So just because you dropped out doesn't mean you can't be an on-time graduate. So we do see our dropout rate fluctuating over time. And the dropout rate it is cumulative over the course of years. So a cohort might see a 5% dropout rate in their freshman year class and 5% in their sophomore, same 5% in junior and senior, and you have roughly a 20% dropout rate or an 80% graduation rate, but it's always reflected as that 5%. So it gets a little bit confusing in that case. So I want to get all of that on the table so we know what we're talking about when we talk about graduation rates versus dropout rates. So what are the risk factors most related to dropping out? That's what we wanted to find out. We have data, and we've had data for a long time. Data is the result of students taking an assessment, taking attendance, referrals, suspension information. We've attempted to turn that data into information. So that's when you hear from us, here's our graduation rate, here's the percent of students suspended, here's our decrease in that. Where we are now getting to is going from data to information to insights. So I want to call out a few members from my team who I didn't call out earlier, but acknowledge Steve Green. So while I have the opportunity to present this great work, I want to give full credit where credit is due, which is Steve Green doing, I'd say, about 98% of this work. Steve joined us about 6 months ago or so, and has already started making a tremendous impact. Jonathan McElroy, a little bit newer to our team, joined us from the Harvard Strategic Data Project and is doing fantastic work already. And many of you know Sean Bergstresser, who just finished up with the same program that Jonathan is just now starting. But it has taken us a little bit of time as a data team to get to this point where we're ready to begin really generating insights, moving away from data to information, both of those really critical, but true insights. So I want to share some of those insights with you today. So what factors were we able to explore in understanding what impacts students dropping out? And we have 5 large bucket areas. These 5 bucket areas are made up of 32 individual factors. So the first bucket area, student conduct. We'll go over these in just a second to see a little more detail about them. There's demographics, school characteristics, student assessments, and teacher characteristics. Keeping in mind that these are all at the student level. So when we talk about student conduct, one of the things you'll see is referrals, and it's the number of referrals that student has received. And when we say school characteristics, it's actually the characteristics of the school that student has attended over the course of time. So 2 students at the same school might have different school characteristics because they transferred in from different schools. So it is all at the student level. To get a little more detail on it, student conduct includes items such as the count of referrals that students received over the course of, I think it was 5 years that we included, count of suspensions. It also includes things such as attendance. So when you see student conduct, it might be a bit of a misnomer in that it also has attendance related. Student assessment information includes many of the state assessment scores, the average course grades, the change in course grades over time. Demographics are the standard demographics such as ethnicity, student grade level, their lunch status, whether they're receiving free reduced lunch or not. Teacher characteristics, these are the characteristics of the teachers that that student has had as a teacher. So for instance, the average Tulsa Model School score for all of the students' teachers. So each of the teachers they've had, what is the average Tulsa Model score, or what is the average tripod score, and so on. Finally, the school characteristics. This is the characteristics of the school that that student has attended in the past, as well as the school that they're currently at. So the average tripod score for all of the schools that that student has attended, the change in all scores for all schools that that student has attended, so that's the change in test scores over time. So those are the 32 different items. To go through each of them, you'll have them in front of you. Don't want to belabor the point too long. So what did we find? If you look at this pentagon, you'll see a student at the center. We're always focused on the student. The closer the bucket area is to the student indicates the greater amount of impact that bucket area or that set of factors has on predicting whether or not a student is likely to drop out. So you can see clearly that student conduct, which includes attendance information, includes referrals, suspensions, is the strongest predictor of whether or not a student is likely to drop out. Demographics, school characteristics, and student assessments are all okay predictors, but certainly not near as strong as student conduct. And teacher characteristics were the least valuable predictor in understanding if a student is likely to drop out or not. More specifically, the top 5 factors of those individual factors are, in this order, average class attendance for a student, the change in class attendance, student grade level, so just what grade level they're in, average student course grade, and the severity of conduct infraction. So as many of us look at that, having worked in education for a number of years, there aren't a ton of things that go, wow, that's incredibly surprising. But what is critical with Steve's support in looking at this is we really want to understand, not just make assumptions about, okay, this is what is impacting graduation rates or dropout rates, but instead really understand with our own data what is having the greatest impact. And you'll notice the top 2 impacts are related to attendance. And you've heard about many of our focus on attendance this year, which is driven in part by understanding this. And we're able to have specific interventions related directly to improving attendance for high school students and middle school students, which we hope to result in a decrease in our dropout rate. So what does this look like exactly? I'll walk you through just a couple of graphs to see, like, okay, understand those are the impactful things, but how much do they have an impact? A student who has an attendance rate of between 75 and 100% days is very, very, very unlikely to drop out. So that's probably somewhere in the 1% range or below. The moment you drop below 75% attendance, average daily attendance, your probability or likelihood of dropping out goes up to 20%, meaning 1 in 5 students who have an attendance rate of below 75%, or this 50 to 75% range, will drop out. That's significant, incredibly significant, and that tells us a lot. And you see that it gets worse by 25 to 50%, and it may be surprising that it's 0 to 25% it drops down. The truth is that it's likely that students have dropped out by that point, so they don't get to that poor of an attendance rate. Change in attendance. Not too surprising once again, that if your attendance rate is increasing over time, so if we're looking day to day and you're improving, you're very unlikely to drop out. However, if you're decreasing over time, much, much more likely to drop out. At the more basic level, just grade level, what grade level are you most likely to drop out in? And we see here, perhaps a little bit surprising, we were somewhat surprised when we saw this, 10th grade students are at the highest risk for dropping out, about 5% there. 11th, 12th, and 9th graders all very high as well. And you'll notice that you have some 3rd graders, 4th graders, 5th graders who are listed as dropouts. What we know is most of those likely are not true dropouts. It's we didn't get the records, and so by definition, they are considered a dropout if we don't have records showing where they went. And then average course grade, this was a little surprising to us, and we talked about it a lot, and we continue to ponder what may be happening here. But students with an average course grade of D are most likely to drop out, even more so than students with an average course grade that is failing. So what does this tell us? A little bit of summary of it. Attendance is the most important factor when trying to predict the likelihood of a student dropping out. The analysis can help inform programs and interventions that the district should put in place. We've already started using this information for that. But how can it help schools directly? So outside of interventions that we put into place as a district. This is what we're really excited about, and once again, with the support of Steve Green and other members on the team, we're now able to get beyond information, moving to insights to support schools. So how can a statistical model help? Beyond just identifying the most impactful factors, which we've done, we want to develop a model that can be used to identify students who are at risk. So not just what are the risk factors, but who are the single students who are most at risk of dropping out, and aiming to use those findings to inform the development of an early warning indicator system to be included in the dashboard. So if counselors or principals or teachers could see more immediately a student's risk of dropping out and be able to support and intervene early on, we're able to have fewer stops and knocks at doors because students are in school or intervening while they're there, and much easier to intervene when they're still in our school than if they've dropped out. Doesn't mean we're not going to intervene if they don't come in, but it's much easier to do so. So what makes an early warning system valuable? Mentioned a little bit of it. Ability to intervene before it's too late. Deploy the limited resources we have in a strategic and targeted way. We know that we want to provide supports to all students. However, if we can identify the group of students who are most in need of those supports, we'll be more effective in targeting that. And it helps us lead to our goal of graduating all students college, career, and life ready. So this is a graphic that you have that might be something that you would see. It likely won't look exactly like this, but it gives you the idea of what a principal or counselor would potentially see in an early warning indicator system. So you have student red, and these dots are their absence, current grade, and grade level risk indicators. And for this student, they're on the outer edge, meaning the most risk. And you see risk for dropping out is high. This isn't deterministic. This isn't saying this student is bound to drop out. It's saying this student needs far more support right now to ensure that they stay in school. While this student here, hypothetical student, is at high risk because of their low attendance rate and medium risk because of their current grade, that's the average grade in their courses and the grade level that they're in. While this blue student on the right side is low risk in all of these areas. The models that Steve and the team developed used historical data to then create predictions on what we call out of sample to see how effective is this in actually predicting who will drop out and who will not. And what we found is that it is incredibly effective at predicting who will drop out, and it picks up a lot of students who wouldn't have dropped out. So that means we'd be intervening, so a lot of these students and these students, we'd be intervening, and they weren't going to drop out, but we're still intervening there and hopefully capturing a number of the students who would have otherwise dropped out without intervention. So to wrap up, as we move forward, these findings will be shared with counselors, principals in the coming weeks so they can start to identify opportunities within their own school sites. We know that principals have the best knowledge of what is going on within their schools and how they can support students, so we'll get this information to them. The data team will leverage the information as we deploy new resources for school leaders and teachers. And what we're really excited about is to come back to you in a couple of months, and actually we're working on something really exciting right now around college going rates for additional white papers similar to this, where we're moving not just data, not just information, but really getting to the point of insights from that data that we have. So appreciate the time today. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Other questions from the board? Ms. Shelton?
Thank you for all of your work on this. I can see an incredible amount of potential in helping to identify students. I have a couple of questions, but we'll start with attendance. Are we or have we considered tracking more specifically the reasons for a student missing school? So the weather, for example, or health issues, to be able to pinpoint more specifically for specific students or trends district-wide why students are missing school?
Yeah, so yes, we definitely consider it, and we do collect some information around excused and unexcused and put in the system. We'll be honest that it is inconsistent across school sites depending on where we look. Dr. Johnson is leading a lot of work around attendance. In fact, we met this morning as we have a tiger team of sorts, a group of individuals who are focused on understanding how we can improve attendance rates. And that is something that we'll certainly take back and discuss. I think we could learn a lot more from knowing very discreetly why are students missing. It's not currently at the top of our list of priorities from the attendance work, but it's certainly something that we need to discuss.
And then one other kind of a bigger, more philosophical question. I was very personally surprised to see teacher characteristics not being as predictive as you might think. I think in ed reform generally we look at the teacher as like the most important factor in a student's success. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And then it's interesting that it looks as if teacher characteristics are not predictive, but school characteristics are, which is an average of the students' experience at different schools, and so the teachers they've had are part of that. I don't know if your team has any insights or any inferences on why you think we see this phenomenon.
One thing that I love about working with data is that the more answers that you generate, the more questions that you generate with those answers. And we certainly find that every day in our work, including this, where it was surprising to us to see teacher characteristics not having as strong of an impact as we would anticipate. What I want to be careful with there is that it doesn't indicate that teachers don't have an impact on students. But from our analysis, teacher characteristics are not a good predictor of whether or not a student will drop out. And so attendance being a predictor makes a lot of sense, because as a student stops coming to school, they are more likely, if it's intermittent stopping coming to school, to parlay that into continuous stopping coming to school, which is dropping out. And so being careful to distinguish from, do teachers matter, which absolutely we know teachers matter, versus are teacher characteristics a good predictor of dropouts, which we found is no, that's not the case. Another factor that I don't think is the case, but could be a possibility, is that the teacher characteristic measures that we have simply are not great measures for understanding that work. And so I think that's less likely than the case of teacher characteristics being a little less impactful on dropouts, but maybe more impactful if we do the same work on third grade reading, let's say, and the growth in third grade reading, we might see teacher characteristics have more of an impact. And then you had a second question that I lost as I was answering, I apologize.
The school characteristics, though, do seem to be predictive, and it's related to teacher characteristics.
Yes, it's
But
related to
different.
teacher characteristics perhaps, but in the school characteristics, what we see is that it's actually more driven by who are the other students in that school. So the changes in student assessment scores over time is one thing that is in there. And so it might be the case that who your peers are is slightly more impactful than who your teachers are. But going back to the slide here, I want to make clear that all three of these are kind of sort of on the outer edge. Teacher characteristics, it's not as if it's a long, long ways, but what's more striking is that that student information is the most impactful.
And last question, have we run correlations between those 5 factors, how they may be related to each other? So if, say, teacher characteristics are related to student conduct or to assessment? I'm
going to ask Steve to answer that. I don't know if we have or have not. Steve, do you want to come to the mic? They'll record it.
So the short answer is that all of the features that we're currently using have low correlations because with each other, because if they are highly correlated with each other, they throw the models off. So there were a set of features that were basically eliminated because they are correlated highly with other features that were included in the model, and that means that it's, from the model's perspective, it's saying the same thing. If this one feature does the exact same thing as the other feature, then both things are telling the model the same thing about that student, so we removed them. So the short answer is that most of these features are not correlated with each other necessarily because of the way we're doing the analysis.
Thank you, Steve.
Dr. Decker?
Thank you, President Schreiber. Ms. Shelton, you did an amazing job of asking such excellent questions. And I just wanted to commend you and your team. And Steve, I haven't met you yet, but I look forward to doing that. I also live in this early warning space, and so I just want to say you've done excellent work, and I'm really excited to see it be put in place and to hear about that. I did want to just say one comment that these systems are before it's too late, before the kids actually dropped out. But these top 5 factors make me even think, what can we as a district do so that kids don't even drop low on some of those factors? And attendance is definitely one. And we talked about, I do think teachers impact a child's attendance tremendously, and I just want to weave it back to destination excellence and bringing joy to the classroom and how important engaging all students with the teaching and learning team. And I really think this data can help weave the story of why we've chosen some of the decisions we made are supported here. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and yeah, agree wholeheartedly with the approach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further? Move on to board member reports and concerns. I believe Dr. Decker has a report for us this evening.
Great. I want to give an update on some of the work of the Talent Management Subcommittee of the board. But before I get into that, I just want to say at the outset that one of the most important functions of our board is evaluating our superintendent. And indeed, that matches just the general goal of all managers to really put a lot of time into doing a good job of providing feedback to their employees so that they can work on their own growth and development. And definitely the district is working on that with all employees too. Because this is so important, the board needs to regularly review the tool that it uses and the process that it uses and make updates when necessary. So the Talent Management Subcommittee took on this work in the summer And after some review, we determined we really did think an update was necessary for two primary reasons. One is we wanted the feedback to our superintendent to be more ongoing. It was really more of an annual performance review, and we wanted it to happen more frequently throughout the year and also be more open and transparent. And of course, again, this matches what the district is doing with all of its staff. And then the second primary driver for why we wanted to make updates is that we have now Destination Excellence, and we have annual district goals that are established by the cabinet team, and we wanted those to be incorporated into the district's evaluation. So our subcommittee, took on this work with Ms. Ruth Ann Fate and Ms. Janetti Marshall. And we reviewed quite a few tools that are out there to evaluate superintendents. One is put together by our own state superintendent association, the OSSBA. And then we also looked nationally to what's available and about their tools and their processes. So we reviewed all of those and even had some communications via email with other groups also. So after all of this review and lots of thinking and processing together, we now have a new tool and a new process that is ongoing, is transparent and open, and incorporates Destination Excellence. And so we look forward to using that in this 2017-18 school year. Thank you.
I want to thank Dr. Decker and her committee for taking on that work. We knew it needed to be done when we formed Destination Excellence, and they really put the rubber to the road and got it done. And I think it'll be a beneficial tool for all of us, and we look forward to using it. And I think I just cannot thank Dr. Decker especially enough for really taking it to the level of excellence with which she does everything. So we appreciate that, and we're grateful for that. Are there other board member reports? Ms. Shelton.
I wanted to give a shout out to some members of Team Tulsa that don't get recognized very often. I went on Saturday morning to Wilson, where the Passport to Literacy event was happening. This was something that was done, TPS did this in partnership with other organizations, the Oklahoma Parent and Child Center, I believe, Able Tech, some other organizations, and put on an event for all Tulsa County, any families who wanted to come to learn about supporting early readers. And so there were programs for the kids, and then parents, grandparents, guardians had a chance to sit down with experts and learn about reading strategies and special tools for our exceptional students, and also classes offered in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking parents. I was very impressed. I was not involved at all in the event, just showed up to see it and was amazed at our hardworking team. Greg James in Exceptional Student Services, but also Kristen Dillard on his team was the name that everyone was saying, you need to meet Kristen. She is really the one behind this. She's only been with the district since January and yet was full in on this. And I was just impressed with how they went above and beyond. So for example, there was a parent that reached out to them ahead of time and said, my student is high on the autism spectrum. Can we come to this event? And Kristen made sure that they had paraprofessionals there and coaches from Exceptional Student Support so that all parents, all students would be supported. As I mentioned, Spanish classes as well. Hornsby was there from the Drillers. Safari Joe's was there with animals for the kids to touch and feel. She also went around to all the high schools in the area recruiting students from National Honor Society to volunteer, and got students from TU. So lots of volunteers went above and beyond in making this an incredible opportunity for parents, but also a lot of fun for the kids. So I was just blessed to see how our team is working so hard behind the scenes, doesn't get shouted out. I know there were many other people that were involved as well, but I wanted to make sure that Kristen and Mr. James were recognized in particular.
Thank you, Ms. Shelton. That's a great report. I have two quick things. One, I want to give a quick update on our ad hoc name review. As you know, we committed to convening community leaders, And fortunately, we have a group in place, so rather than convening a whole new group, we'll be using our Community Advisory Council that includes different community leaders from business background, faith background, retired educators, and from all kind of quadrants of Tulsa. And so we'll bring that group together for our first meeting in October. And when I say our, I do mean the ad hoc committee will not sit in with the community advisory. That will be led by facilitator or facilitators. And Dr. Gist is meeting with potential facilitators I think this week. And so we'll go from there once the facilitators are selected. But you know, our intention is that this will be an experience that's an intensive learning opportunity, not only about how, when, and why our schools were named, but about social, cultural, and historical factors that influence that naming and have determined what they ultimately were named and how we look at that now. So again, we're just continuing with what we believe is so important is the conversation around this, and looking forward to that first meeting of the committee and getting them up and going. And just one more comment. I just have to note that you may recall that last year we, actually it was in May, we called for the gross production tax to be restored to 7% to properly fund education. And late last week, the governor called a special session wherein she called on our legislative leaders not only to fix the tobacco tax that was found unconstitutional, tobacco rate or fee that was found unconstitutional, but she also called on legislators to go deeper and take another opportunity to find a way to increase our teachers' salaries. And so the resolution really remains relevant, and I just wanted to note that it still exists. Addressing teacher salaries in a way that makes our state a desirable place to teach requires a new revenue source and a new sustainable source. It's $500 million if the gross production tax is restored, and I think that would make us in a good place in teacher salaries if that was distributed that way. And you know, myself and my fellow board members are fully aware that our job is governing this district and setting policy, so calling on the legislature to restore the GPT might seem a little bit out of our orbit, but we share with all of our fellow Oklahomans the belief that a public education provides us that level playing ground. So no matter what zip code we come from, if we get a quality public education from great teachers, then we have our shot at the American dream. So when we call on the legislator to require everyone to pay their fair share, we're just asking them to help fulfill that shared kind of moral obligation to prepare every student for the greatest success in college, career, and life, which starts with teachers who are paid an honorable wage. So as the session approaches, in each of our own ways, I know that we will be calling on the legislature to act on this resolution, and I would encourage all of you to do the same. And that concludes our piece. We don't have any citizens' comments. I almost tried to put Mr. Bright in citizens' comments. I apologize for that. And that moves us to Dr. Gist's presentation.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a couple of quick follow-ups from some of the board members' comments. First of all, to Dr. Decker and the Talent Management Committee and all of the members of the board, I'm really looking forward to being engaged with you on the new evaluation system for my performance, and look forward to getting that regular feedback. And I think this quality tool will really be helpful to me in making sure that I'm performing at my very highest and best. And so I'm looking forward to that. President Schreiber and all the board for your advocacy on behalf of our teachers and students and calling for the action that we know needs to happen in order for our teachers to receive the kind of professional compensation they deserve is so important. And I'm just grateful to you all for the work that you do to call that out and to really advocate on their behalf. And then also, Board Member Shelton, thank you so much for your recognition of Kristen and Greg and everyone on the team for their work on Passport to Literacy. It was indeed a huge effort they made to make sure that families of children in pre-K through third grade had an opportunity to come and learn about all the things that they can do to support their child's literacy development. And you named some of the partners, and I'm so grateful for that. And I would add, among those partners were the Oklahoma State Department of Education and State Superintendent Joy Hoffmeister, who actually came to the event as well. So thank you for calling that out and the incredible work of our team. And then President Schreiber and board members, you also touched upon the work that we're going to be doing regarding the analysis of our school names. And I indeed will be meeting with our facilitators here in the next few days, potential facilitators, and have talked with personally with almost all of the members of the Community Advisory Council. And they are very interested and looking forward to being a part of this community effort to use this as a teachable moment to understand and learn from one another and from technical advisors we bring in, and to being a part of the support for the board as you consider these issues. And then I also want to touch on September. September is Attendance Awareness Month, and so you saw from the work that Mr. Fedor and his team presented on high school attendance and dropouts, that attendance matters, and we know it matters for a lot of different reasons. There is a strong correlation between student success in school and attendance, and so we wanted to take the opportunity of September being Attendance Awareness Month to raise attention to families and community members about the importance of setting good habits and putting routines in place and working hard to schedule in advance appointments and things like that, so that all unnecessary attendance issues can be avoided, because we know that sometimes things do happen. So the ones that we can avoid, we want to avoid. It was mentioned that Dr. Ebony Johnson and her team are working to lead our attendance improvement work, and obviously there's a lot that we can do as a district, and I'm glad, Dr. Decker, that you pointed out the important role that teachers play in that, because we know that when students are having a great experience in school, they're more likely to be there every day. We also know that our parents play such an important role with us as a partner in making sure that our children are at school every day. So we're going to be launching an effort where parents can sign up for text alerts that will let them know about their child's attendance, and we're sending out some postcards to families, sharing that information, introducing them to that here in the next few weeks. And so we certainly, if there are any parents who get this message and are having trouble with getting a child to school of any age, our team certainly stands ready to help to remove any barriers that might be in place, whether they're health issues, issues about accommodations, issues about supports for the family in terms of different kind of social supports that might be necessary, or whatever we can do to help connect them to resources to get children to school every day. And then one other thing I wanted to share is that we have some new celebrities in the Tulsa Public Schools family, the Espinosa sisters. And these are three sisters who've been working on our custodial team for more than a decade, and they certainly embody our core values of character, excellence, team, and joy every day. We have had a video that our communications team created that has been up for 5 days. It has been viewed nearly 9,000 times. This is one of our top most viewed videos ever, and we are just thrilled that the Espinosa sisters have gotten this attention. It's short, and we just wanted to share it with you quickly in case you hadn't had a chance to see it, in case you weren't one of the 9,000 people who saw it.
Count for all these people?
Yes, we will multiply the number here.
Meet the Espinoza sisters,
I feel so excited.
some of Tulsa Public Schools' finest custodians.
We always communicate about our work, what do you do and what I had to do. And
There's Maria and Maria and Maria, but they all go by their middle name. There's Carmen and Norma, well, except for Maria.
this is my second family.
She's been working for Tulsa Public Schools for 13 years.
They call me for something, so I go to real quick.
Her school is literally across the parking lot from her sister Carmen's school.
Sometimes she need help or I need help, so we work, together.
And Carmen keeps herself busy,
I'm moving around all long day.
answering any call for help,
When they come in and say, Miss Carmen, my locker is locked, can you come and assist me? Sure.
always setting the right example for growing minds.
The first thing is respectful and kind.
Just a few miles south is their other sister, Norma, another positive Espinoza light in the district,
Smiling faces, kids always love me.
willing to lend a hand and watch the kids when her school family needs her.
So they need to go to the clinic or something. And I say, okay, I'm here, you can go.
All three sisters have been with the district for more than a decade.
Sometimes my kids say, you live here? Say, yeah, I live here for all day.
They're the first ones to school each morning
Be here on time to unlock doors.
and locking them down at night,
And sometimes I need to stay late, I'm stay late.
taking pride in their work,
My best import is keep clean my school.
doing it all with infectious smiles, and encouraging others to visit tulsaschools.org/careers to start their own journey.
Opportunities, and I say, okay, if you can come, go apply, and it's easy.
So big shout out to the Espinoza sisters and all of our custodial team members who work so incredibly hard and have fewer supports available this year because some of the cutbacks that we've made, and they've stepped up and gone above and beyond, and we're just very grateful for their hard work. Also, the communications team who has been doing profiles on a number of different employees in our district, teachers, principals, custodians, other members of our team, which is a huge part of that is about recognizing the really wonderful people we have in many different kinds of jobs who are serving our community. And it's also an opportunity for us to recruit because we are always looking for more bus drivers and more custodians and more teachers and more paraprofessionals and so forth. So it's an effort that has multiple benefits. And then lastly, I'm really pleased to share with you that our Golden Apple Award series is coming back for our third year. We will once again be partnering with Fox 23 and Cox Communications to honor and celebrate our amazing teachers. And so you can go to the website that you see here, which is fox23.com/golden-apple-award to submit a nomination for a teacher to receive the surprise Golden Apple Award, and those will begin soon. And that concludes my report, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Guest. Any other non-routine items? Okay. Any new business? We'll move to the announcements. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education will be held on Monday, October 2nd, 2017 at 6:30 p.m. in the Shell Selman Room at the Education Service Center, 3027 South New Haven, Tulsa, Oklahoma. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I'll call for the vote. Ms. Shelton?
Aye.
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 Aye. Meeting adjourned.